guys, it is Christian here, and today we're going to be talking about some of my more recent favorites. So today I thought we could dive in and talk about the products that I have been loving off camera. So I hadn't purchased too many products while I was off of YouTube. I really focused on using up a lot of the products in my collection, testing, playing, and trying things that I had pushed aside because I had been purchasing so many new things trying to keep up with, you know, the latest makeup releases and things like that. But I decided to really hone in on my collection and find some hidden gems that are in my actual collection, or just things that I hadn't played with enough or tested enough. So today we're going to be talking about all of the things that I have been loving for the last several months, things that have been on constant rotation. And yeah, so I really hope that you guys enjoy favorites videos. In the past, I never really did them too often, so I do want to get better about talking about favorites and letting you know what I actually think is worth the money. I do want to go ahead and mention that a lot of these products are not like new releases, because over the last several months, I have taken the time to really go back through my collection, pull things out, test things, try things, and just really find products that I already had in my collection that I could enjoy. Now, some of these products you have never heard me talk about because I purchased them maybe during the BIB sale last year, right before I stopped filming. But most of these products I have had in my collection for 6 months or more. But yeah, if you want to see all of the things that I've been loving, how I've been, you know, the things that I've been using to apply my makeup, all of the products that I will be talking about today are currently on my face. And yeah, you guys, let's go ahead and get right into it. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is actually the newest thing in my collection. I actually just filmed a video using this product, and the video should be up by now. I actually filmed it probably like 3 weeks ago, but I just haven't gotten around to editing it. But by the time this video goes live, that video should already be up. And the product that I am talking about is the Morphe Glamabronze, and it is in the shade Icon. It is the bronzer that I am wearing today. I love the undertone of this bronzer. I love how easily buildable it is. It doesn't go, you can't really go overboard with this bronzer. And a lot of things that I've noticed when it comes to bronzers tend to pull very warm on me, or they tend to pull very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very gray almost. So finding that perfect bronzer that just hits right there in between is just everything to me. And it is, like I mentioned, it is the bronzer that I am wearing today. It is the bronzer that I have been wearing pretty much every single day since I purchased it. It is on the more affordable side at $19. It just blends into the skin super effortlessly, super beautifully. It gives you the perfect sun-kissed look without being too much. Like when you look at your face, when I look at my face, I'm kind of like, oh, okay. Put this bronzer on, it looks like you just came back from the beach. Like, you know what I mean? Like you just got back from an awesome summer vacation. And it's just beautiful. It is high in quality for the price. So I'm very surprised by this actual bronzer. And let me go ahead and give it a swatch. And that is what the actual bronzer looks like. And I know that it has been out of stock, like, because I've looked on Ulta's website a couple times and they tend to keep going in and out of stock. I actually had to go into a store to purchase mine because I could never get it online. And it's just really nice, you guys. I just take a really big fluffy brush, like my Tom Ford bronzer brush, and I just hit like at the high points of my forehead. I hit my cheeks. I dust a little bit all over my face. And I just dust it really nicely all over my face. It doesn't get patchy. It doesn't get splotchy. And that's the thing that I notice with bronzers too. They can tend to get a little bit more splotchy on me. I mean, I do have more textured skin, and sometimes things do skip, especially when I have a lot of breakouts and things like that in my more cheeky area. And I'm not noticing that with this particular bronzer. So this is something that is newer that I absolutely love. And it doesn't have any shimmer. It doesn't have any glitter. It's just gives you that nice luminosity while still being a matte finish. Now since we're talking about bronzers, I am going to go ahead and mention another one, because before I purchased the Glamabronze recently, I have been using this one nonstop. This is the Hourglass bronzer in Luminous Bronze Light. I want to say that I picked this up during the VIB sale in November or sometime around that period. I held off on using it for a while because I wanted to, you know, haul it and talk to you guys about it in a video, but that video never happened. So I just went ahead and busted it out of my collection and I started using it. Now the difference between this one versus the Morphe one, this one does have a little bit of a sheen to it. So let me go ahead and give it a swatch and kind of see them compare. The Hourglass one is right up on top, and when I kind of tilt my hand, you can kind of see how it does have a little bit more of a sheen. It's going to give you a little bit more of a healthy glow. Now, this one does take a little bit more building, so if you have a lighter skin tone, it'll be perfect for you. If you're a little bit deeper than me, you might have to go with a different shade. I'm not sure if you can tell, but they do have very, very similar undertones to them. This one is just a little bit lighter. It's just going to give you that natural wash of color. There have been times where I'll just kind of apply this bronzer all over my face, and I don't even go in with a highlight because it'll give you that little bit of extra oomph without being too much. Hourglass's Ambient anything are beautiful. Hourglass just makes good powder products in general. Their blushes are beautiful. Their highlighters are beautiful. Their face products are beautiful. So it's really hard to go wrong with an Hourglass product. And these are mixed in with the actual Hourglass ambient lighting powders, which I love to set my entire face with as a last step, just to kind of blend everything together. So if you don't like a bronzer that has like a little bit more of a shimmer or a little bit more of a sheen, you might not love this. Whenever I want to go super natural, whenever I want to go super light, whenever I just want to look sun-kissed without it being too much, this is the bronzer that I was reaching for, which is pretty much every day. So sticking with face products, since we're already on the face, let's go ahead and move on to foundations. There are 3 foundations that I have been obsessed with. They are 3 foundations that have been on my rotation and the only 3 foundations that I have been using. I have been trying to use up some other foundations, setting some aside to give to my sisters and friends, or just they're expired and I need to toss out, but these 3 foundations are my fave. So 2 of them you have heard me talk about on my channel, and 1 of them you have not. So let me grab them. So the 3 foundations that have been on constant rotation for me is the Too Faced Born This Way. This is in the shade Light Beige. This is too dark. I recently picked up Porcelain, and that is the perfect shade match for me. This is the Smashbox Studio Skin 15-Hour Wear Hydrating Foundation, and this is in the shade 1.1. I used to rave about this foundation earlier on my channel, but I stopped using it because I'm not sure how I ended up with this shade. Like, you can see that there's still a lot of product in this bottle, but this is way too dark and it was the wrong undertone. Somehow I ended up with the shade 2.1, and I don't know, way too dark. But since I've gotten the correct shade, this is empty, this bottle is empty, and this bottle is empty. I have repurchased all of them. This is the Dior Backstage foundation in the shade 2 In. This is also too dark for me, so I repurchased 1.5, which is a perfect color match. So this is the only foundation, like I mentioned, that you guys have never heard me talk about on my channel, and it is the foundation that I am wearing today. I did not think that I was going to love this foundation as much as I do, because in the past, especially with my skin, I wanted full coverage because I was trying to hide every blemish, every red spot, every bit of discoloration that was on my face, and I was noticing that base makeup just didn't look good because I was just applying it. So it might have looked okay on camera, but in real life it just looked a hot mess. This foundation looks great on camera, and it also looks great in person. So this is a little bit more of a liquidy foundation, and the thing that I was kind of afraid of is because I thought it was going to be more like a MAC face and body type situation, which was going to be like minimal coverage or just a very no makeup kind of look. But this gives me a good medium solid coverage foundation. It is the foundation that I am wearing today, and it is, I would consider this, it's not a dewy foundation and it's not a matte foundation. I would consider this to be a nice satin finish, and I'm starting to notice that satin finishes are definitely becoming more of my favorite. I've never been a huge fan of matte. I used to love dewy foundations when I was a little bit more oily, but since I've gone combo, dewy foundations sometimes can be a bit oily or a bit too dewy, if you know what I mean. But this one is that perfect in between. Now, if you like a full coverage, like face painted beat every day of your life, you might not love this as much. But if you like something that is a little bit more natural, that's a little bit your skin but better, but still with a little bit of extra coverage, this is amazing. My preferred method, sorry you guys, I'm a little sick, but I'm kind of like, no, I'm not going to let anything stop me from filming. So if I sound a little nasally, that's why. This foundation, you would think, I actually prefer it with a beauty blender. Now, you would think because it is a little bit more of a liquidy product, a brush would be better. I have tried it with both. It works with both. I just like that sheerer, more beautiful, natural look that you get with a beauty blender. That is my preferred method, but you can use it any way you like. So I have repurchased this. It will be in an upcoming haul video, because anytime you see me purchase a foundation more than once, especially with the extensive foundation collection that I have, you know that I love it. Now the Too Faced Born This Way, I'm not going to talk about it because I've talked about it in several of my more recent videos that have already been posted on my channel. By the time this one goes up, it should be. And then the Smashbox Studio Skin, this would be my second favorite and this would be my third favorite. They're just beautiful. Everything about all of these foundations is just absolutely stunning. I would recommend any of the three of these if you want a little bit more of a fuller coverage look, like full coverage, because I wouldn't consider any of these to be like full. I would consider this one to be like a medium to like a high medium, this one to be a medium, and this one to be, in my personal opinion, like a medium as well. If you want to go full coverage, I still stand by the Laura Mercier foundation. I still love that foundation. It's still in my top 5. I'm just not reaching for it as much as I used to. So staying on the complexion, this guy, I purchased this. This is the Too Faced Born This Way Multi-Use Sculpting Concealer in the shade Vanilla. It is the concealer that I am wearing today. Vanilla is not the right color for me. So there is a theme happening here because I tend to buy so much makeup at one time. It takes me forever to get around to using that makeup, and then by the time I use it, I realize it's not the right color, but 3 months have gone by and then I feel awkward returning it. So I either don't use it or I kind of try to make it work. I always loved this concealer, but I knew that I picked it up in the wrong shade from the day that I purchased it. So Vanilla is a little bit too yellow for me. Now with a little bit of color correcting and a little bit of baking with a lighter powder, I have been able to make this concealer work for me as far as the color is concerned. But as far as the finish is concerned, oh my gosh, I prefer this. I know when this concealer originally came out, everybody was kind of comparing it to the Tarte Shape Tape. Is this going to knock the Tarte Shape Tape off? And I know that everybody stands Tarte Shape Tape so hard. It has never been my actual favorite concealer. Like, I hopped on the bandwagon and was like, yay, it's so amazing, because everybody else was saying it was amazing. But when I was like, I really sat down and thought about it, I was like, you know what, it's not that great for your skin. So the difference between this one versus the Tarte Shape Tape, I consider this one to still be full coverage, but I think that the Tarte Shape Tape is a little bit more full coverage, and I also feel like the Tarte Shape Tape might seem a little bit more full coverage because it's a little bit more matte. Whereas this one gives you a little bit more of a hydrated look underneath your eye. So if you have mature skin, if you have a lot of dry patches, if you have a lot of wrinkles underneath your eye and the Tarte Shape Tape didn't work for you and you wanted it to work for you, I would definitely give this one a try. You get a crap ton of product in here, 0.50 ounces. So basically this is the half of a size of a standard foundation. So you get a ton of product in here for the price, and it will last forever. And the thing that I've come to realize, especially for myself and figuring out my own makeup techniques over the last 6 months, is what every other beauty influencer and beauty guru is doing is not necessarily what's best for me. So I no longer do a ton of concealer underneath my eyes. I no longer do baking. I no longer do, you know, that kind of stuff. I kind of just do what I feel like works best for my skin, and I do think that my makeup has improved since doing so. So I just take a couple of dots underneath my eye, just maybe 3 or 4, and then I just blend that out. Now if I'm wanting to go full coverage beat glam, then I will still kind of do the triangles and the extra highlighty situation. But my concealers are never, I don't really do the lighter concealers anymore. I don't really do a lot of highlighting with my actual concealer. I will go in with a little bit of a lighter powder. But this concealer blends really nicely. It will settle into fine lines if you have them. I've never met a concealer that won't settle into fine lines if you have them. But if you if you pounce out the creases with your beauty blender or a finger or a brush before you set it, this will stay in place all day. This will look good all day. So again, this is the Too Faced Born This Way Multi-Use Sculpting Concealer. So let's rewind for a second and talk about a primer. This is a product that I have been using a ton, and it has been working so well for me. I pulled this back out because everybody started talking about the Cover FX Gripping Primer and the Milk Makeup Primer, which I did purchase. But I wanted to go ahead and talk about this, or try to use this up again so I could kind of compare them to the newer versions that everybody's talking about recently by the newer brands. This is the J1 Jelly Pack Dramatically Firming Skin with Improved Elasticity and Pore Smoothing Primer. And this is like a sticky primer that will kind of make your makeup, it does make your makeup last longer. So basically what I do not think that this is pore smoothing. I do still go in with a pore smoothing primer, but I hit this on the perimeter of my entire face, and you know, it keeps that nice little tack, and then I wait about 30 seconds and then I will go in with my pore filling primer, and then I will immediately go in with my foundation, and my foundation lasts all day long. Again, I still go in with a second primer because I need something that will smooth out my pores, but if you're looking for something that is going to make your makeup last, this is it. When I apply this around my smile lines, they don't settle as much. When I need my makeup to last all day, I reach for this, which is basically every day because I work 10 to 11 hour shifts, so I need my makeup to look nice all the time. And the combination of these two is everything. So it does, when you put it on, it is a little bit like of a thicker consistency, but it does spread out onto the skin very evenly. So it doesn't ball up on the skin, it won't interfere with any dry patches on your skin. If you have sensitive skin, I've never noticed, because I have very sensitive skin. I mean, you guys have seen my skin with no makeup on, to where I try something new and my face just goes red. I've never noticed any issues with that. I've never attempted to use it as a skincare, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, this can also be used as some type of face mask. I've never tried it in that aspect, but just as a gripping primer, something to make your makeup last and adhere all day long, this has been awesome. So let's go ahead and talk about eyeshadow palettes. Now, this palette I bought more recently, and I'm kind of ruining my haul videos. I did buy this palette more recently, and you will be seeing it in my haul video. I've decided to just try and test and play with things before hauling them, because why not? Just to make sure that I use my stuff. Now, this is the James Charles and Morphe palette. Now, I don't personally follow James Charles. I don't personally watch his videos, so I didn't buy this because it was a James Charles palette. I completely 100%, let's be honest, bought this on impulse. It was the last one on the shelf. I knew how hyped it was, and I was kind of like, ooh, let me buy it. Honestly, that is what happened. And I have thoroughly been enjoying it. I do want to do a video once I've tested it a little bit more and played with the colors a little bit more, doing like a head-to-head of this palette versus the Jaclyn Hill palette, just to kind of see. So I do want to do something like that. I don't know if anybody has already done that. I'm sure somebody's already done that, but I want to do it anyway. So the reason why I love this palette is because, let's move that, is because you can literally create any look. Like any look that you can possibly think of, I feel like you can create with this palette. If you are a neutral girl and you want to dabble with pops of color, it is done for you. If you have your purples, you have your blues, you have greens, you have warm tones, you have your neutrals, you have a little bit of everything. The only thing that this palette doesn't have like a ton of is cool tones. There are a few cool tone eyeshadows scattered in this palette, but not a ton. But I have worn pretty much everything in here except for the blues and the greens. So, for example, if you were interested in the Jeffree Star Blue Blood palette, obviously I'm not comparing formulations and things like that. You can still get, I mean, the Jeffree Star Blue Blood palette is an entire palette of blues, but you can probably create some similar looks with the blues down here. If you were interested in pretty much anything, I feel like this will get it done for you. I don't think Morphe shadows are the best. I do think that this palette was like 40 bucks, and I'm kind of like, really, $40 for a Morphe palette? And I understand because it's James Charles, they had to up the price a little bit because they had to pay him. But I've never had any issues blending. I've never had any issues with the skipping. I have worn some of the more vibrant colors down here. Again, I haven't tried the blues or the greens, and I know that blues can be a little bit more challenging, so I can't speak to those. But I have tried every single neutral shade, and I'm sorry, and I have not worn the blacks. As you guys know, I never wear black eyeshadow. It just doesn't happen. But every other color in here I have tested, I have played with, I have put on my eyes, and it is very, very enjoyable, and I'm very happy that I did pick this up. I have been reaching for it a ton. So if there is one eyeshadow palette that you want, if you're on a budget or if you just want to create endless looks, this is the eyeshadow palette that I would go ahead and recommend, because it just gets everything done for you. I feel like this can replace the Anastasia Riviera palette. This can just remove, like, because of how many colors are in here, because of it has your pops, because it has your neutrals, because it has your staples, blacks, whites, things like that. This palette is worth the investment, in my personal opinion. I wasn't going to pick it up. It wasn't on my radar. I knew that this palette had gotten released because it had gotten released, what, like November or something of last year, when I was still pretty up to date on makeup and makeup releases. It wasn't even on my radar. I picked it up completely on a whim, and I don't regret it. I thoroughly do enjoy this. Now, another palette that I picked up, and I've used this palette now probably 4 or 5 times, and I love it. And it is the most unique palette in my collection. It is the Lime Crime Venus XL2 palette. I love the packaging. I love the color story. I love everything about this palette. From the second I saw this palette, I knew that I wanted it, but I had to really take the time and think about if I would use those colors. Now, I had my eye on this for such a long time, and I was like, no, I'm never going to use it. No, it's too expensive. No, 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 no. And then I forgot how I ended up really just kind of making the decision to go ahead and purchase it. I've kind of become, I'm trying not to impulse buy anymore. So if I see something that's on my radar, I don't buy it. And then if I keep thinking about it, and if I keep talking about it, and if I keep going back to the website and looking at it, that's how I know that I want it. Now, when I say that I don't have, obviously I might have colors like this individually, maybe if I dug deep enough in my collection, but as a palette, as a whole, I have nothing like this. Lime Crime, I'm sorry, I know that it's a very controversial brand. I know a lot of people don't like the owner, but Lime Crime, everything that I have tried from them so far, look at my mess, oh my gosh, everything that I have tried from them so far, I have absolutely loved and enjoyed. I think that their eyeshadows blend effortlessly. I think that they are a little bit more of a unique, they come out with a little bit more of unique color stories. Like this is just, to me, it's very unique. I can't think of one palette, and maybe you guys can, but I can't think of one palette that has, you know, a color story like this. And it's just beautiful, you guys. Like for Easter Sunday, I wore a lot of the greens. I wore Obscure, I wore Myth, I just went ham with the greens. And I think I want to do a video using this palette, because you might look at this palette and think, oh, it's not very wearable. Where am I going to wear green eyeshadows? But because they are on a more muted side, they do pull a little bit more like neutral. You know what I mean? Even though they're green, if that makes sense. Like I would wear this to work, like with no problems. I would put Obscure, I would wear Myth, I would put Envy, I would put all of these eyeshadows on my eyes to work and not care. But I've also worn purple eyeshadow to work and I don't care. I had this eye look on yesterday at work. Don't care. So I just think it's great. You get minimal fallout with this particular palette. They blend really, really nicely. They have the right amount of pigment without not being too much, because when you're more of a makeup novice, when things are too pigmented, they can be hard to work with. So you need to find that right balance between not enough and too much. And I feel like this palette hits that perfectly. I love this eyeshadow palette. And again, I know I've said it like 5 times, it's unique, but another thing that I like about this eyeshadow palette, my camera's gonna die. If this was not on your radar and you're looking for a really lovely, lovely spring palette that's gonna give you that that's gonna give you that something that people are gonna stop and be like, what's on your eyes? This is it, y'all. I flipping love this. So, and I think that's everything. Those are all of the products that I have been loving and obsessed with. Really do hope that you did enjoy this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below, and I will see you very soon. Bye, guys.